Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. I'm Jeanie Ryce, your co-host, and we have Dr. Tim Hayes, and today's Aramaic Friday, so we have Dale Hoffman with us as well. We welcome you to the show. It is Friday, November the 7th, 2014, and our calling number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk to us. And we would love to hear your comments and your questions, because then that makes this your show. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's an awesome blessing to get to play with everybody we get to play with every day that we do that. And we are in day 8 of a 9-day codependence to interdependence intensive. And the space that's opening and the appreciation that I have for the fact that 2,000 years ago, this man named Yeshua said one thing that has really opened the space for the work to go in the direction of this process of codependence to interdependence. And what he said is, you must forgive from your heart the wrongs of your brother. And you know, from the Greek perspective, that's been made to sound like some sort of a bleeding heart statement. But in fact, what he was saying, and in the West, we couldn't even decode this word heart from the Aramaic, or as the Greeks translated the word heart. We had no concept of what it meant for almost 2,000 years. And then when the unconscious was rediscovered, actually there was a Nobel Prize given out for the discovery of the unconscious, but in fact there was no discovery of the unconscious. There has been no discovery of the unconscious in our modern world. It was known thousands of years ago, certainly a rediscovery of a lost understanding. And so now what we know is that what Yeshua is saying is, you must forgive from the hidden, unconscious, dissociated part of your mind, where the whole world that you see comes from, and all your pain, your drama, and your trauma is stored. And as long as you live in denial and dissociation, you've got somebody else to blame for it. You must go into that part of your mind and remove what never belongs. So when you think forgiveness, think removal. When you think heart, think unconscious. Remove from your heart whatever it is you put into your brain's image of your spouse, your child, your parent, your neighbor, your enemy, your friends, whoever it is. That if it's an energy that is off the mark for you, that doesn't belong in your structure, then your obligation is to remove it. And so we've just spent the last 9 days looking at the dynamics of what needs to be removed in this codependence intensive, and the energy has just been so sweet and so supportive of moving through these dynamics. And we certainly thank Carrie for her stepping up and supporting us with doing the food. It's been just fabulous. The smells wafting out of the kitchen are just amazing, and so it's just been a really awesome 9 days. It just goes by a little too quickly, but that's just the way it is. So, in any event, welcome, Dr. Kim. How do you be, sir?
Actually, he has disappeared off the phone, so I'm not sure if it was him or someone else with the same area code. So he is not with us, but Dale is, and then we already have a hand up, too.
Yeah, well, I was understanding that Tim wasn't going to be with us today, so that he had some other things on his schedule. But let's say hello to Dale and see how that young man's doing and what Dale's got on his mind. Welcome, sir.
Hello. I think I'm here. I'm pretty sure.
Cool.
It's good to hear your voice. I'm getting ready to go down to Florida. I'm very. I have a new talk I'm giving actually in Tarpon Springs tomorrow called "The Pinnacle of the Life Temple," and tying right in with, of course, with forgiveness, as always, is those moments. The whole essence of it is how, when, what is it you say, the stress is up and the chips are down, of course we go unconscious. Of course, if we don't know the technology or the tool of forgiveness, and when it feels like the system is breaking down, that point of entropy, which is what I actually call the evolutionary moment of truth, we have choice as to whether we're going to go down with the ship or whether we're just going to throw the junk off of the deck that's causing the ship to go down in the first place. And that's what the talk's going to be. I'm excited about it because there's such a choice we have today in the world as to whether we want to view things falling apart, which, of course, things are falling apart, or if we want to take our focus away from what's falling apart and put our focus on what's birthing anew, or what's being allowed to shine as we remove those broken down old structures, either internally or in politics, whatever. Interesting political year, very dark, sort of sludgy here in Asheville in terms of advertisements and things. And so that pinnacle, the temple, is actually it's a Gnostic idiom that actually talks about bringing the body temple to a place of amping it up, exactly what we would do with still point breathing or doing a worksheet where you're in that breath process and you're stretching it much like a balloon. And when the life temple gets to that point, much like a balloon, when it's so full and the energy is moving so quickly, just exactly like a balloon, you see the weak spots, and also you see the spots that are maybe a bit more blunt and keeping it from expanding to a higher level. So it's amazing how all that got down to in sort of modern Christianity in terms of pinnacle, the temple, is just Jesus climbing up onto a tower of a physical church so that a big bad devil with a pitchfork can somehow tempt him and tell him to jump down and the angels will break his fall. It's anyway, people are ready for this now, and it's so true, like when you say about the unconscious, that couldn't be translated until about 1890 or so, thanks to Freud. And even today, people say to me people say, I was in Morristown, New Jersey the other day, and people are like, well, what is it that drives you? And I'm like, well, I don't know that anything drives me so much as just staying connected, staying close to source, staying calibrated with that truth. And, whatever needs to happen, happens. So anyway, I'm just honored to be on the team.
Yeah, well, I'm honored to have you here. And, one of the things we talk about, actually, we talked about in this workshop, and we get into in the On Creating Consciously, is that there are three places to create our lives from. Two of them are dead, and one of them is alive. And there's the controlled life that people live according to what's inside, what's on the outside of them. There's the driven life, where people live according to what's on the inside of them. And then there's the inspired life, where people live as fresh, alive, alert, awake human beings that are actually experiencing the present moment. And, it's all a matter of if we are aware that we actually have a choice. Those who would promote the idea of living a driven life or a controlled life don't want us to know we have a choice. And the truth is, at any time we wish, we can bring that spiritual faculty into play, and we can start to move out of the apocalyptic into the optimistic, and create a whole new game out of it. It's pretty awesome. Actually, back when 9/11 happened, and I don't know whether Vernie's with us today or not, but Vernie called me a few days after 9/11. She'd been listening to a CD, or actually a cassette tape that I'd done called Pyramid Prophecy, where and it was one that I'd done about 25 years earlier. And she called and said, "Do you realize what you said in that Pyramid Prophecy 25 years ago?" I said, "Well, no, I didn't." And that on the passageway to the King's Chamber and the Great Pit, that each significant date in history is inscribed on that passageway. And the last date was September 17th, 2001, 7 days after 9/11. And, did we step up to the King's Pyramid or to the King's Chamber to take the upper path as humanity, or did we go down into the pit? I hold the space that enough people made the choice to move to compassion and love instead of hostility and fear. Certainly the war makers, sort of moved in and took over the machine, but I think there's still a lot of people who said, no, we're going a different direction, and the war makers are still trying to keep that voice suppressed and cordoned off and, shut down, though it's totally and completely unconstitutional. There's not allowed to be a voice of opposition to those who would live out of the pit of unknowing and out of the darkness. So yeah, I think we're at that point, and I'll look forward to hearing more about what that presentation's about.
Yeah, we're going to be filming that and putting it up on YouTube, and it's going to be tying in the three temptations from Matthew, Mark, and Luke, although they don't really go, I think it's Mark, or is it Matthew, that doesn't really go into the temptations. But, and talking, of course, that word, the tempter, the accuser, resistor, in Aramaic, the word is akel kartza, and that's an inner tempter, an inner accuser. It's all inner. It's all internal. We've got the outside devil, which did not really exist in those teachings. Satana, the being divided against itself, the adversary, the one fighting against oneself. That's not outside. And just for people to know definitely that there is that choice, that, and I'm not saying that's one of the weird things is there's so many sort of new agey philosophies that say if you feel bad, essentially affirm that you're light and almost basically unplug your temple from the wall and it'll all just go away and then you can walk away with a smile. But I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, of course, and this, is go toward that, stay with that, keep the breath moving, keep the temple in that open space, keep the vibrations and the essence moving, and all those things that when you're in those amped up states and you're, vibrating at that pinnacle of the temple, you're going to be very aware of things that you just weren't aware of before. And when you know that you actually are at the place of choice, to be able to remove those consciously from the system, wow. And I must say, most people have no idea, Christian or not, a lot of people just don't get it. They don't understand it, that, you don't have to suffer. Suffering, you're not a victim of suffering. As soon as you think that, of course, you regurgitate it, amplify it, and recreate it. So I'm excited about what it's going to turn into. I mean, I've got a few thoughts of where it may go, but in the end, I don't really know entirely, so we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Well, Jeanie said we've got a caller. What do you say we check out and see what our caller's got to share with us?
Okay, I think it's Rex. It's area code 517.
Well, it sure is. Hi, Dale. Hi, Jeanie. Hi, Michael.
Hi there, young man. How do you do?
Awesome. It's a wonderful day in Lansing, Michigan. Actually did my yoga outside today. It was really nice. It's probably around 45 degrees or 50, but that's pretty nice in the sun. So it's a beautiful day. We had talked yesterday on the program a little bit. I had brought something up, a few things in just a few minutes there. It was all perfect how that worked out. One of the things I brought up is Dale Allen Hoffman, the great, will be in Lansing, Michigan on November 20th.
Sounds like like some kind of circus performer.
Dale Allen Hoffman. I didn't know you had a new moniker, Dale Allen Hoffman the Great. Oh, that's cool. When did you create that one, Dale?
What's that?
I said, when did you create that one, Dale?
I didn't. I believe Rex just did it now. So.
Well, I hadn't mentioned it, Dale, because I kind of wait until the last minute for this type of introduction. But, you didn't know you were going to be doing some magic tricks and stuff too, right? You didn't realize that.
Well, it seems like magic, that's for sure, when you're in the process, if you actually do it, of course.
There you go. But absolutely, it does. And it isn't. It's just, it is what is, I think, ideal. It's what's normal. And we make other things normal, and they aren't. I think what's normal is being in the presence of love and expressing that every moment of every day. That should be ideally, and I think it is what is normal, but it's a word. At any rate, I wanted to mention that, and you're doing a workshop this weekend, you said, in Tarpon Springs, I think it was?
Yes, yeah.
That's awesome. Is that on Sunday?
Yeah, it's New Beginnings Oneness Center. New Beginning Oneness Center it's a friend of mine, Mary Lou Hullis, who is truly, speaking of inspired, she's an amazing minister, so you could say non-denominational, sort of new thought, very open when she speaks. It's not just to stay as positive as possible. It's not always when I'm on the road that I hear a minister speak that I go, whoa. But with Mary Lou, it's like, whoa. And I'm excited because I'm going to be doing the first presentation in their new center, which they're moving into right near the Sponge Docks, actually, in Tarpon Springs. Sunday's their first event, so it's going to be kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Cool.
And also that I will be doing a workshop on that same, probably about the same time on Sunday. I'm doing a talk at Unity Church of Grand Rapids in I'll also be doing a workshop titled Experience Pure Joy by Embracing Your True Self as Love. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. It seems to morph into new and different processes, and it's exciting to be a part of this community and to be able to share the truth principles and just to share all of us together. Nice. Awesome.
Beautiful. We'll all be
Rex,
connected.
So Rex, you're going to be at Unity in Lansing Sunday?
No, actually I'll be in Unity of Grand Rapids on Sunday.
Grand Rapids.
And then the following Sunday I will be doing the service in the same workshop, same title, the talk. Well, it won't be the same workshop because it'll be a week later, but I will be doing the same title of the workshop, and it will be in Lansing at the Unity Renaissance.
Cool.
And then
So
we're
two
having a
different
discussion.
events.
Yeah, they're two different churches in two different cities.
Cool. Cool.
And then on that note, Lucille and I had a conversation today about what they're looking at opening it up so that I can do the Laws of Living course starting in January at the Unity of Renaissance. We just had another conversation today and pinning it down to a day, and they're interested in having me be there as well. So pretty exciting stuff.
That is very exciting. And by the way, for a new event we just added yesterday, there's a friend of ours named Billy Eastman in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and we're going to be at the Friends Center in Yellow Springs, Ohio, at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon doing a lesson from the Course in Miracles. So everybody
Not tomorrow, Sunday.
Sunday, yes. This is all Sunday. Saturday, I was thinking tomorrow because Carrie's going to be doing a workshop in Lansing tomorrow, an all-day workshop. I'm not even sure what it is. Do you know where that is, Jeanie?
I don't, Carrie. If you all are listening, somebody press button and let us know that.
Where is it you're going to be in? Where is it you're going to be in Ohio? What was the name of the place?
It's going to be in Yellow Springs.
Okay, that's near Columbus, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's near Dayton. Just outside of Dayton.
Oh, it's right between Dayton and Columbus, halfway between the two.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm going to spread the word about that one. Good. Cool. Yeah, it's a little closer to Dayton. I'm seeing. Cool.
Awesome. And if Carrie doesn't come on to let us know where it is, I can look it up on my emails to see if I can find it. Because I think I have it somewhere. So if we don't hear from her, I'll make sure before the end of the program I'll do that.
Okay.
I did have a question.
Yesterday we were talking about some issues, and I don't remember exactly what they were, but did they fit for our conversation with Dale in the Aramaic today? I wasn't thinking yesterday. I said let's take it up tomorrow, but today was Friday. Perfect. Let's go for it.
It's wonderful because Dale was the one who actually resonated in me. On last Friday, during the Aramaic Friday, we had a discussion about if I'm in pain, I'm in error, I think it was, Dale, that you were quoting, and you said you had a slight disagreement in that. And
what I was saying was it's not so much the pain so much as, well, it's the suffering. And, the pushing back. Yeah.
And the reason I'm bringing it up, Dale, and I brought it up at the end of the program yesterday, but we didn't have time to discuss it, and Michael said, well, why don't we talk about it tomorrow? And I thought, well, my thought was that's perfect because it was really a part of that was because of what Dale had said, and it resonated in me and triggered. And my experience is that I actually can experience pain while I'm in the presence of love, and I will transmute it and allow it to heal fully or integrate whatever the material is that's the cause of it. And as I'm doing that, I may be in pain, and I may not be in error. I know there's error that resonated or, might have happened that is the cause of the pain. But as I'm experiencing it from a space of love, my take on it is that I am actually in the process of integrating it, and I may not be in error while I'm allowing it to integrate. And that's why I just would really love to hear a discussion about that, because I think it's a great topic to get clear on, because some people associate this work to being in pain. And then, no, it's not what it's about. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah. So my take on that, Rex, would be that my pain comes from my error. And I've had people who said, well, wait a minute, I know a guy who got hit by a Mack truck. His pain wasn't from error. He got hit by a Mack truck. It's like, well, here's my take. If he were in harmony with his being, he'd have been warned energetically the Mack truck was on its way, and he just stepped out of the way. When I decide to go into the healing process and I access things that are memories of pain, and to me it's when we're re-experiencing something based on our errors from the past, we can re-access and in the presence of love dissolve that memory of pain and be free of it. And there wouldn't be pain there if there wasn't an energy that was off the mark or an energy based in error. So that would be my take. And then, of course, you can go to the next level. And when you're off the mark and there's actual pain, then, of course, you can go into the whole suffering game and, oh, how terrible is this, how victimized am I? And that adds a whole other layer of suffering. But for me, as opposed to this work being about the pain, this work is about being in the active presence of love. And if there's an energy that's off the mark in us, that bringing that forward for healing is that alleviates the pain, the suffering, and all of the insanity that non-human life has done on the planet. So that would be my take on it. You have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm very clear. It's something that I've got clarity on over the years, which is definitely, as an example, I clearly, I think it's been several years since I sort of dropped I had like some sort of idea in my head, like a goal that at some point I'd become so enlightened that if I cut my hand I wouldn't feel pain. But then I realized that that's that pushing away of my humanness, of the manifest part of me. And for me, there's a clear difference. It's sort of exactly like what Buddha said. He said pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And I'm definitely clear that, at least for me so far to this point, if I were to talk about simply, whatever, complete enlightenment, whatever that even means, being pain-free, that can only be a concept in my head. But yet here, in my actual life and doing the actual work, clearly, if it's something to do with a past experience, whatever, yes, pain, it feels as if the pain gets removed. But as an example, if I've got a cut and I breathe into that and I embrace that cut, the pain's still there, but I'm not suffering in it because I'm actually being fully present with what is in the moment. And that, to me, that's the beauty, that's the melancholy of the balance between, in that duality that we are. One of the things I've mentioned on the show before is the bridal chamber. The bridal chamber that, there's all this stuff about equality in marriage right now, as there should be, but there's this oddball sort of ultra-conservative Christian thing saying that Jesus made all these statements about marriage, blah, 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 but they don't realize that statements he made about marriage, it's a metaphor, it's a story. It's not about a man and a woman getting married. He's talking about what we know of as the yin-yang of the I Ching, the supreme ultimate. And it was a Gnostic idea called the bridal chamber. And the bridal chamber is where the non-manifest and the manifest, light, dark, positive and negative, masculine, feminine, here, there, past, future, awake, asleep, conscious, unconscious. The bridal chamber was actually a Gnostic idiom, which is a place for us to be in the balance between the manifest and the non-manifest. And in that balance, there's the way I explain it in some of my talks, a lot of people, there's this strange pursuit, I think, sometimes for, Michael knows exactly what I'm talking about, people that are real toothy, sort of happy, oh, I don't feel anything, there's nothing inside of me, I am happy, jam it down your throat, happy, which is interesting because one of the things I say is happiness is very conditional as opposed to joy. Joy is that place for me where I can be in what's called the bridal chamber, which is in between the worlds, from the non-manifest and the manifest, the part of me that maybe feels on some level, as what appears to be a human, some kind of loss, but yet is in the eternal where loss doesn't exist because there's no beginning and there's no ending. And for me, I'm definitely at least right now in this particular human incarnation, not saying that I'm right, but for me, I'm really embracing that here and there rather than the here or there, and the portal between the two eyes, the eye within the eye and then the eye that's projected into the world, in that space there was called the Taureya, or the portal, where Yeshua said, I am the gate. It's that open space between our absolute truth, highest awareness, actuality, and that which we sort of project out. And I'm really enjoying being in that middle space that doesn't feel, it's not painful, yeah, so there's definitely that, but it has like the feeling of it's more like a melancholy. It's not bad in any way. It's this beautifully balanced, like thinking back with my mother, and that we just went through 7 years since the loss, and when I brought my mind back and did some worksheets and sat there with that loss, there was definitely suffering, and there's also pain. But the thing that I've definitely come to see is that the line between the two, unless it becomes to more of a polar opposite, like the line between light and dark, positive and negative. If you pick up a battery between negative and positive, there is no line that divides one from the other. If you look at the poles, it's very obvious. But the dividing point is very arbitrary, depends on where you're at in the moment. And that's sort of the place that I've been seeking to live, is in that balance, somewhere in the middle there. And I'm in like an interesting place with the difference between pain and suffering right now, because I'm just sort of open, and I'm doing my best to be careful not to rest into some kind of thought system about it, and just be open to see what it has to deliver me. So who knows how I'll feel next week. But yeah. But if I cut my foot and there's pain there, that I can call that pain whatever. But the clearness is that it's not good or bad. It's just whatever that experience is. Shakespeare, there's nothing good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. As soon as my thoughts come in and my past experiences, and then I start maybe in some way, whether I realize it or not, consciously or unconsciously, start resisting that pain, that's where the suffering happens. And but just to have the choice to know that you don't have to suffer. I really got to encourage. I've always loved the title of the book you were working on, The End of Suffering. Wow.
Yes.
Actually, I must have listened to those chapters about 30 times too. But yeah, so I'm sort of in an open space about it right now.
Cool. Awesome. Well, and of course, the place where we cut the hand or the foot or whatever is a place where we hold some unconsciousness that we get it in the way of, whatever it is that creates the cut. And, always receiving, to me, everything is feedback to keep bringing us back to this place within where we live, move, and have our being as true humans, as this awesome presence of love. And being able, as you say, be able to embrace everything that's less than that in us and move forward. And, as Dale mentions, those 2 chapters, it's actually a book that's on hold, but if you want to listen to the first 2 chapters of The End of Suffering, Resurrecting the Original Aramaic Yeshua the Christ, you can go to our website on the audio page, and you'll see 2 MP3s there that you can go listen to, that Jeanie has so kindly put in place for people to listen to. Actually, I was in the middle of writing that book when I met Jeanie first. One of our first introductions, I read that to her over the phone as I was working on it. And so just reminding me of that.
Well, thank you, both of you, for clarifying your thoughts and your experience of the idea of pain. And it's interesting because as you were talking, this idea of suffering is something that I think, and Michael, you've mentioned this, and we've had conversations about this. And Dale, I'm pretty sure that you're on the same page. We might even have talked about it directly, but that moment in time when we gave up our awareness of being one with everything and in the bliss state of creating creation. It's really a focus of the workshop that I'm doing this Sunday, and that is to really bring that to the forefront of our awareness and really start unraveling the suffering and the pain that we have still contained within our field, I'll say and I think it's all of us to various degrees that still have that contained in our field and our consciousness, and it plays itself out. And I think that's one of the main causes, if not the main cause, for why we even move into the realm of suffering, because we are suffering, and we just aren't aware of it. And the more we become aware of it, and the more we unravel it through forgiveness and clearing all of that material it's just not accurate. It's a lie. And as I remove that, and as we support each other removing it, what I find is that yesterday when I'm lifting up a dresser with Mitzi, carrying it upstairs, and we together tilted it just right so the end of the dresser caught just the very tip of my front lip. And those of us mostly, it's an ouch, man. When you want to know about some pain, I don't recommend it, but it is something that is acute, and it's really, doesn't take a whole lot. And I thought, sure, I split the lip because I've, been in tussles in the past, and usually when you get popped in the lip, it opens it up pretty easily because the teeth are so sharp. At any rate, I just stood there for a moment, and I noticed within a matter of seconds, anger started coming up. And it was, the inclination was wanting to make someone wrong, and immediately I breathed and I just went into the experience of the pain, and it intensified. But there wasn't anything. Mitzi wanted to keep going. I said, just a minute, honey, just a minute, and I just breathed, and I was standing there, and it's throbbing, my lips just throbbing, and not knowing if I did whatever I did with it. It was, it's got a pretty good bruise on it right now, but it peeled a little bit, But the moment of that pain, what I've noticed about being aware of, hey, I bumped my lip. Either I wasn't paying attention, or I was paying attention, or we were paying attention, and it was kind of like a yogi knock or something to just, are you in the present moment? Here, let's find out. And as soon as it happened, I breathed and let it go, and the pain intensified initially. And then I just asked Mitzi, am I bleeding? And she said, no. And I said, okay. And we just moved back to continuing carrying the dresser. And it continued to hurt, but the pain almost started softening and going away almost instantly within a matter of minutes. And I think it's a good example of the different options that we have in the moment when we experience pain. And I have quite often in the past taken the option of getting angry. Well, it wasn't until the next two steps when we did it again and I bumped the bottom lip. It wasn't enough to just do the top one. And that's when I went,
Mitzi, setting stuff up to get belted in the mouth, Rex. What is that one about?
Well, it's pretty clear to me. It's like, pay attention. It's a 2-inch rule. If it's so close to my nose or so close to my face, I can't see it. The 2 inches away from I put my hand in front of my face and I say, has anybody seen my hand? I can't find it. I don't know where I put it. Well, it was kind of like that. And at that moment, that's when anger come up, and I said to Mitzi, I said, please, you're tilting the dresser, and it's hitting against my face. And she said, well, I didn't know it. I said, okay. And it wasn't as easy to let go of the second one as it was the first one. And what I recognize is those were patterns in me that I was setting up an experience of having.
Dresser.
Exactly.
I've got my hands on my end, but she's tilting the dresser, right?
Well, of course it was her fault. Come on. No, that was the realities that were surfacing. And it has been a huge pattern for me to blame externally. And then as I started letting go of the idea of blaming externally, then I would turn it inward, and I wasn't aware of doing that before I did it external. And then I became aware of doing it inward, and this is all a part of that suffering that you so eloquently described, Dale. And I would suffer the guilt of doing it wrong, and I would try to blame them so I didn't have to look at my own feeling inside was that I did it wrong. And then once I resolved that, I still have more to work on, obviously, on that. But as I resolve more and more of it, I see that, gosh, there wasn't anything wrong. There was only an expression that was happening in the moment, like Shakespeare, neither good nor bad, just what I put my attention to in the moment caused my experience to unfold of it, whatever it happens to be. And I can smile now, and in a few minutes I was able to move through that, and Mitzi may have a different version of that, I'm sure.
I can see her eyes rolling now. Oh, here goes Rex again. But it's a great example of the conversation we're having today. So I can look at it as a perfect experience so that I can see more about how I interact with pain and what I do with it. And I think that's the key for me, is that if I'm able to see my part in it and let go of any idea of making myself or anyone else wrong, or the dresser or anything else in that matter, and just fully experience the moment equally as I would to an experience of having joy in the moment. And I think, Dale, that leads me into the idea that you were sharing, that I was experiencing with you from my perspective, that of hitting a neutral place, and it almost seems melancholy, but I think that's the pattern that we've put on it.
It's kind of a label. Yeah, that's the label we put on it. It's my best sort of word for it, because I don't have a word for it. You know, it's like it's outside of words, but yeah. Yeah, the pattern is a perfect way to put that. And then as soon as we look at it as melancholy, of course, we pattern it into that. So it's kind of, I don't have another word that works so well, though. So yeah, for me, it's like, I was just going to say briefly that for me, it's like pain is the alarm, not the fire itself, but suffering is the resistance to not only the fire, but also to the alarm. And then as soon as we do that, of course, ow. So, but I don't know.
Well, yeah. Then, of course, we can step into forgiveness and remove the whole energy pattern and move on. And speaking of moving on, Jeanie tells me that Carrie's on the phone. So let's say hello, Carrie.
Absolutely. So she's on area code 413, but I got a note slipped under the door that was Carrie. So you're on.
Hi.
We were just talking about your workshop.
Oh, good. Yeah, I kind of heard you. We were all sitting around lunch at the intensive here enjoying the conversation about pain and suffering, and I was just going to say I've always seen pain as kind of a messenger from my internal content asking me to pay attention to it. So
yeah, it's the one thing we have to do is you know, in my intent here is to be very clear to not judge the pain, because the pain is the alarm. It's not the fire. It's not the cause. It's not the problem. The pain is the alarm that tells us there's a problem. And the thing is, but again, that's where Michael is so clear on that. He's saying, look, if there is pain, then you're in error. But the difference with what I'm saying is that, yes, that's true, but yet what I'm saying is the pain is what lets you know that there is the error. So what I'm saying is we have to be careful to not judge pain as somehow being bad, you know, negative in any way, because that's actually the system that's telling us. But yeah, and that's, you know, where Michael's spot on. It's like, if there's pain, something's off, something's in error. So
right.
Yeah. Well, you know, pain has this wonderful purpose. It makes our ears grow. And people who don't have people who don't have pain receptors get themselves into a lot of trouble. You know, somebody who doesn't have pain receptors in their hand puts their hand on the red-hot stove, and they don't even know it's there. And they do a lot of damage. Pain prevents a lot of damage by giving us that warning signal and responding appropriately. So it's an awesome gift to have pain, for sure.
Guiding us to a place where we can change what's causing it. So I just was going to mention, you guys were asking about the workshop. I'm doing a 21st Century Superhuman workshop in Lansing tomorrow, which is Saturday, from 1 to 5. And I look forward to seeing anybody who's in the area there. We cover a lot of really awesome things, kind of a deepening of the experience of the book, what's a lot of the overview of what's in it, but then a deeper interactive experience of learning what that's about and integrating it into the life. So the location is at Lotus Voice in Lansing. And I don't have the address with me. I do have a flyer or an event up on Facebook. If anybody wanted to find me on Facebook, I also have a 21st Century Superhuman page where the event is posted. So that's a good place to look for the details on the event.
Cool. Awesome.
Yep.
So anybody that's in Lansing, Michigan area, come and join Carrie tomorrow afternoon, and then on Sunday afternoon, head on over to Grand Rapids and join Rex at Unity of Grand Rapids. And if you're in Yellow Springs, Ohio, around 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, come join us at the Friends Center for a lesson from the Course in Miracles, as we're on our way to Bristol. Go ahead, Jeanie.
I was just going to say, Michelle sent me a text, and the address for the Lotus Voice is 4994 Park Lake Road, East Lansing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks so much for you guys, and I'm so much loving being here at the intensive. I highly recommend it as a place to transform one's life when your other intensives come up.
Well, and is anybody that's sitting there around the phone have anything to share about what's happening for them, what their experience has been of the intensive, what they're going through? Anybody with a question?
Let me walk back in there.
Dale?
Anybody want to talk? You want to hit mute on the computer a second? No. I guess, Linda, would you like to say something? No. I guess they're all mute today.
Cool. All right. Awesome.
I know we've all been in deep processes, so some people are just, I think, a little more internal right now. But thank you guys so much, and many blessings, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you for your food.
Carrie, as a reference, Carrie, thank you for being here in town and you being in my own city. I had, because of the busyness of what's happened, I'm going to be seeing clients all day tomorrow. I'll be working starting in the morning and not finishing until the evening. So I won't be able to attend your workshop, and I would love to do that. So I will do my best to get to one when you're close in the area again. But just know that I send you love and support.
Yeah, we've actually got Kalamazoo and Ann Arbor coming up in the next few weeks as well. But thanks, Rex. It'll be fun to see you at once it works out.
Absolutely.
And Carrie, do you have a website people can go to if they want to keep up with your calendar, where you'll be doing the 21st
my website
century
is down right now. We'll be rebuilding it in the next couple weeks, but that will be 21stCenturySuperhuman.com. And then they can find me, Carrie Kira Star Ellis, on Facebook and 21st Century Superhuman page on Facebook and 21st Century Superhuman group on Facebook. So those are, a lot of people are keeping up with us that way right now.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, Jeanie tells us we've got a caller. Sweetie?
Thank you.
Yeah, area code 352. You're on the air.
Hello, this is Lisa.
Hey there, young lady. Welcome. How can we support you today?
Well, Michael, is this Michael I'm speaking with?
You've got me.
Okay, Michael, this is Lisa from yesterday concerning my son.
Yes.
I went on your website. I'm legally blind, so and I don't have anyone to help me. But I went on your website and I was looking for the podcast that you're talking about, and I wasn't able to find anything. If I give you my email address, could you email it to me?
I think we could do that. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Michael.
And your email is?
It to you? Yeah, I can give it to you on the air.
Go for it.
Okay. Anointed Praise, ANOINTED, praise 32607 at yahoo.com.
Were you able to get that, Jeanie?
Lisa, it only has one N, ANOINT or ANN?
No, ANOINTED.
Okay. I'll send it to you here in just a minute.
All right. I thank y'all so much. Thank you.
Welcome. You got it. Delighted to hear your voice.
Mm-hmm.
So our calling number is 646-200-4169. And we've got about 14 or so minutes left. So if anyone in particular has any questions about the ancient Aramaic language, we've got Dale Allen Hoffman. His website's daleallenhoffman.com. You can look at his schedule and products and what Dale is doing around the country and around the globe. by going to his website. And Dale, you had a new product that you were just bringing out. I forget maybe it was expiring last time we talked. I don't remember. There was a special that you had.
Well, I had a hopefully I'm not expiring, but I had a CD that came out about a month ago called The Primal Voice. It's actually a 4-disc set, but one thing that we did was we created something, this might be what you're thinking of, I'm not sure, called the Aramaic Insight Hyperdrive, which is kind of a play on words with the movie Spaceballs, which most people won't pick up on. But it's a little USB drive that has every CD thing I've ever done in MP3 format. It has PDF ebooks on it, several PDF ebooks that I've written. It's got lots of support materials. It's got lots of like radio interviews of mine, Gnostic texts, all kinds of things, kind of like everything in a single nutshell, so to speak. And we've got a special on that on the website so that people can just walk away with a little thumb drive that's just loaded with all kinds of support materials. And, you know, Michael, anything I can do to support you creating something similar for yourself, you know, it's great because there's more and more every year, more people are saying, well, do you have this stuff available for download? And while I do have a lot of it for download, a lot of people, you know, the amping up kind of goes away and then they tend not to get it. By the time they get home, they start thinking about so this way it's like you put that support material in their hands, the ones that don't want like a big pile of CDs and things like that. And we're actually, right before Christmas, we're getting a shipment of a bunch of drives that's going to actually have it's going to have the Dale Allen Hoffman logo on one side, and you flip it over, it's going to say Aramaic Insight Collection. And it's kind of cool. I mean, it's sort of something for the future that it's easier. People don't have to sit there and download, because if they download my full set online, it's like 4.5 gigabytes, and some people can't do that, and for some people, they would be sitting there for 8, 9, 10 hours waiting for that stuff to download and hope that there's not an error in the downloading. So this way it ships to their door, or I just put it right in their hand and it's there, so they just run with it. Anyway,
so yeah. What do they do?
What's that? When they run with it?
If somebody wants a copy of that, how do they get one? How do I get one? How do I get one?
I thought you were saying, what do they do when they run with it? Just go to my website, daleallenhoffman.com. It's right on the front page. Can't miss it. And then it'll take them to a different page that shows when you click on it, it'll show you everything that's on that drive, and then it gives you the options. People can buy the drive, the CD, DVD set, or do the digital download, whatever's easiest for them. The main reason we did this is because people in other countries have really intense internet issues, and they don't necessarily want to pay $30 to have the full CD set shipped to them just for the shipping. So this enables us to send it pretty cheaply overseas, and they've got it there, and they don't have to download it and wait for 3 days to download the thing. So that was kind of the main, and we realized the simplicity of it. So it's the future, I guess, at least the current future.
Well, what is the cost of this gem? Sounds pretty intriguing.
The what?
What is the cost of this gem?
Oh, it's just $99.99, and the shipping's $4.95. And that's $4.95 wherever. If it goes somewhere else in the world, we just take the hit on the shipping because we wanted to sort of level the playing field. It's just through the holidays that the shipping is just $4.95 flat.
Great deal.
Yeah,
great deal.
So it's just over $100 for the whole thing, the whole shebang.
Nice. All right. Well, 646-200-4169 is our call-in number. If you have a question and you push 1, that'll raise a little hand in the control panel. Jeanie will introduce you. Jeanie, is there anything happening in the chat room for us to be aware of? Or anybody with a hand up in the phone queue?
No, everything's pretty quiet. We've just been chatting back and forth. Angela did say when Rex was talking about getting hit in the mouth, and she said that the other day she was in the I am space, and she got hit in the head, and she knew she'd been hit, but her response was absolute calm. And she said that was unusual because normally she'd be yelling or hitting back or blaming. And I said, well, that's just proof of her growth. And so we're just kind of some of the things that Peace and I had been saying back and forth then you all started saying the same thing, and it's like, okay, we're in alignment here.
I thought it was interesting that I was going to say I thought it was interesting that Rex's lip came up because yesterday Shemaya, our little 3-year-old, she's had a pretty intense healing thing going on the past few days, and her nose has been very runny, and she had gotten to the point where she had sort of blown her nose so many times that the top of her lip was really raw and it was sore, and she was constantly rubbing it, and then she started rubbing it and it started bleeding. And it's so interesting to see when it's your child, of course, any parent knows this, when it's your child, there's this sort of thing that it's, what is it Michael says, it's like having your heart running around in someone else's body, and she started to suffer. And when she suffered, I started suffering, and there was a split second where I'm her parent, so it's somehow the right, proper thing to suffer kind of thing. And I went, that's total and complete BS. And I opened myself up, and I just reached my hand forward, and I just touched her lip. And it stopped bleeding, and she looked at me, and she smiled, and she leaned forward and gave me a huge hug. And then I noticed for the rest of the day that the swelling kept going down, and it kept going down, and it kept going down. And when she got up today, there's still a little bit there, but it's so much less. And I said, how are you feeling? She's like, I feel good, which as opposed to yesterday, she said, my lip hurts when I said, how are you feeling? So, yeah, I just thought it was interesting that Rex mentioned a whack in the lip because it was happening at the same time, I was, 12 hours away, so... It's all smoke and mirrors.
Nothing like that active presence of love, is there?
And the choice, knowing that I have the choice, that I don't need to suffer here, that I can be in that space, and understanding that suffering, for most people, it's a decision. Most people don't even know the difference between decision and choice. It's just that remote subconscious thing that happens, and there's no choice in that. But to know that there is that, that it's an interesting, it has almost nothing to do with this, but for some reason there's a phrase from Jedediah Smith, who was this great, opened up the West for trappers. We're talking 150 years back, maybe a little further back than that. And he had this phrase that was in his journals when he died. It's just an interesting little poetic quote. He said that, and of course it's very dualistic, he said, God made us a little above the beasts, a little below the angels, but he gave us the choice. And I remember the first time I heard that, I'm like, well, that's weird. I was like, but it makes sense in a way. But, I kind of see that now is that, there is the choice that, I keep saying, I'm noticing all of a sudden. But just to see when I'm out on the road and I see people who, as an example, they hear me speak. It happened in Morristown, New Jersey the other day. And some people go into this, not that Michael's ever seen this total healing crisis. And they're crying, and they're throwing every question in the book at me, whatever that book is, about, but what about this and what about that? And are you actually saying this? And it's like, actually, that's the opposite of what I just said. But you said that. No, it's not what I said. What I said is this. And to see how it's almost like somehow in the Christian message, whatever the Christian message mean, and so many flavors of it, the 11,600 denominations of it, so many flavors of that, it's like you have to suffer in order to live this. And it's just so bizarre to me. I'm out there letting people know this is a choice. The suffering is the choice. And when you choose to suffer, you recreate that suffering, which of course manifests more choice. And then of course we say we're a victim of that, whether it's cutting your hand or whatever it may be. And of course by becoming a victim of that, you recreate it yet again over and over and over and over and over. And to be able to step out of that and realize that that's all of the masks that we wear. It's the ape, it's the hypocrite, the veil. It's all of those personas that we put on. And it's the persona that suffers. It's the persona, but the persona is not real anyway. It's almost like the suffering. What I'm saying is the suffering's not even real, but that's a choice that we have. For some reason, people just want to do that. And a lot of people are freaked by, they feel a lot of freak out when they hear me speaking because I'm telling them, you don't have to be in pain to be conscious. You don't have to suffer. This is all a personal choice here. And it's just to see the baggage that some people have, they go into an absolute state of panic, and a lot of them breathe? No, I'm not going to breathe. I'm not going to breathe. I'm not going to accept this. And I'm like, well, that's your choice. Just remember that. And my intent is just if I say that's your choice enough that maybe sometime, a few weeks, a few months down the road, that word choice pops into their head. And, hey, wait a second here. Maybe at some future moment they'll have that realization, oh, wait a second, I do have choice here. So I just keep doing what I do and sending it out.
One of the things that was just mentioned in the chat room, you talking about you wanting to be there and with Shania when she hurt her lip or when her lip was bleeding. And Angela says it reminds her of the scene in The Passion when Mary, she had to process her pain as a parent when, she went back and reflected when Jesus had fell as a child. And once she processed through that, then she could stand as the space for him when he fell under the cross and when she was able to go to him. And so that conversation was just going on there. And he was in pain, but he wasn't suffering.
There was so many layers, beautiful layers in the movie, in The Passion of the Christ, that so many people will just throw off the table because of whatever. Oh, there's too much violence. There's too much this. I'm like, compare that to life in general. Look at the evening news. Just watch it once if you can actually breathe through it. That's suffering. That's pain. That's so when we can, and that's one thing that Michael and I are so clear of is that you can actually use cinema or whatever it may be as a further dimension of the healing process to bring up those spaces within us. Those things within us that we're so completely unconscious of. If we can go in and we understand the forgiveness process, and what a powerful movie to do it with. It's just so layered. Sounds like Darth Vader's on the phone.
I know.
Luke, I am your father.
Michael, are you still with us?
So we're down to about 2 minutes. So I guess we'll just say thank you, everybody, for joining us, and let you know that Dale's going to be in Tarpon Springs this weekend. You can get his schedule on DaleAllenHoffman.com. Rex, I think we've got your events on ours since your site's under construction. Carrie, if you want to send it to us, we'll put it on ours. And then Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock, the Friends Center in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And then next week we'll be doing some events in Bristol, Tennessee. The 30th of the month, we'll be starting and doing a full week of workshops in Wilmington, North Carolina, before we head to warmer climes in the south, down into Florida. We'll be heading to the Panhandle right after we finish the first week of November. We'll be heading into the Panhandle of Florida. So take a look at our schedule. Join us. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. We appreciate you being here. If you're ready to crank your work up to the next level, we will be doing a full teacher training, 20-day training in Florida in April. You can look at that on the schedule. And we invite you to give the most awesome gift you can possibly give the world. Have the best year yet of your eternal life. Blessings.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with